Okay, so if you've paid any attention to the news in the past 6 months, you probably couldn't avoid any information about the Affordable Health Care Law, also known as Obamacare. Um, and what we're going to be doing this week is kind of looking at this from an ethical standpoint. Because there are some ethics wrapped into this, and there is a kind of it's a little bit political, but it's also how do you deal with this issue on a societal level, and that's an ethical level. Um, so the basic problem is that health insurance, and therefore access to quality health care, is very expensive. And the, the system that we've put in place is very much a consumer model. You buy health insurance, and then you're covered at various levels. A lot of people do get their health insurance through their employer, but a lot of people do not. And so if you are unemployed, or if you are not full-time, or if you don't have an employer who provides health care, it's very, very difficult to afford adequate care. So we've been around this a couple of times. There are other models out there in the world, and those often tend toward the more, I don't want to call it socialism, but there are models in which instead people pay taxes, more taxes, and then society covers you for your health care. This is very much a Scandinavian model. It's also the model up in Canada, but there are problems with that model as well. I actually live on the Canadian border, and a lot of our Canadian neighbors will say it's very difficult to access health care because everyone can, so there are long waits, there are all these things, substandard care, you can't buy a better doctor, all of that kind of stuff. So there's problems with every system. So now the problem becomes, can you make people buy health insurance or have to sign up for health insurance? This kind of goes back to a couple weeks ago when we were talking about forced vaccinations and forced medication and forced medical procedures. Can you make someone buy this? And what we're going to do this week is kind of think about this. Is there a right to health care, adequate health care, and then can we make people pay for this? The other thing that we want to do here, though, is also say, because if you don't make me pay for it, and there were some years in my youth where I didn't have health insurance, I'll admit that to you, but if I had been in a car accident and arrived at the emergency room, they would have cared for me. And so that would have been socialized health care. They would not have let me die. However, if I got something like cancer and I couldn't afford it, and there was lots and lots of medical bills to that, there's a point at which I'd have to make some decisions about whether or not I could care for that. So these are all kinds of ethical questions that get wrapped up in money, that get wrapped up in politics, but most issues do, as we have seen this semester. So we're going to think about this hopefully on a higher level than some of the other discourse has been in this country, because it's mostly been a kind of discourse. So let's really try and think about it thoughtfully, regardless of our politics. All right? Thank you.